What's up, everyone? Welcome in to Mike Evans the NFL Week 17 Fantasy Recap brought to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my creamsicle wearing, Buccaneer loving, mustachioed co-host, Joey, right? What's up, Joey?
Not much. I told Simon before the show I'm going to need about 15 solid minutes to talk about Mike Evans. So I'll get it at some point during the show.
Oh, it's coming. You know my feelings on Mike Evans. I'm not a Buccaneers fan, but he is one of my favorite players in the NFL, constantly disrespected in fantasy. It's been disappointing so far this year. Didn't look like maybe he was going to hit his 9th consecutive 1,000-yard season, but now it's in the cards, baby. It is in the cards. There's one more game. I think he's at 917 after his performance this week, but we'll talk more about Mike Evans at some point during today's show, I'm sure.
Oh, no, he hit it today.
Oh, he hit it? He was at 917 before this game, and that 200-yard game will make him go over it. You're right. I was looking at that 917 wrong. Guys, there was a whole slew of other games besides Mike Evans' dominant performance today. We're going to break down each and every one of those for you, as well as previewing tonight's Sunday night football game. And as always, if you've got fantasy football questions, if you've got general questions for Joey and I as we approach the end of fantasy football season here, throw them in the chat. We are going to be talking about a lot of these players from today's game in regards to fantasy football for next year and from a dynasty context. So we'll be talking about a lot of these players. Where's their value going into next season, going into this offseason? Should we be trading for them? Should we be looking to trade them away? And then what can we expect next year? We're already looking ahead to the 2023 fantasy season. So throw your questions in the chat. We'll be more than happy to answer all of them for you. We got Born to Laugh here in the chat. Joey saying, Jarrett Stidham, I love you. Oh, what a fantasy QB for me today.
Oh, you started him?
Brave or no other options having person. It worked out for you. Jarrett Stidham already the number 3 scoring quarterback on the week, and that game is not over yet. There's still time left in that game. Beating your opponent with Jarrett Stidham in your lineup, Joey, that just feels disrespectful, doesn't it?
It feels right, is what it feels. No, it doesn't. It's crazy. So, oh man, I love it for them.
I'm trying to think of some of the more disrespectful lineups you could have started this week. We'll say Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. Taysom Hill at tight end feels the most disrespectful out of all of the tight ends that did well today. I know there's been a bunch of unexpected ones. Throw Richie James in there at wide receiver.
Yeah. JaMychal Hasty got a touchdown for the Jaguars.
There you go. Yeah, JaMychal Hasty and Tyler Algier, or JaMychal Hasty and Cam Akers with 14.3 points. Yeah, you could have had a pretty disrespectful lineup this week to win a title with. But that's fantasy football. Joey, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the odds for this Sunday night football game, and then I wanted to get into talking about this Ravens-Steelers game. All these 4 o'clock games wind down. We get to the closing moments there. So the Baltimore Ravens are hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers today. They are 1-point favorites at home with Tyler Huntley starting at quarterback, facing off against rookie QB Kenny Pickett. A blistering 35.5-point over-under for the last Sunday night football of the fantasy football season. We'll get one more next week. But with all the incredible games this week, this is where we land for Sunday night football. Tyler Huntley versus Kenny Pickett. Like, why couldn't one of these games get flexed into Sunday night?
I mean, now that we've seen the game, maybe it shouldn't have been, but that Vikings Packers game, like, it would have been a much better flex into the night game. But yeah, man, over under 35.5. That's little.
It's going to be gross. This isn't one of those ones I'm super looking forward to, but you got to watch it because you never know what's going to happen, especially in these division games. Joey, who do you think pulls this one out? Do you think the Steelers win this one, or do you think the Ravens are going to win this game?
I think the Ravens will win it. I think Huntley can lead them to a victory. I've not really been that excited about what I've seen from Kenny Pickett this year so far. Hopefully he gets it together next year.
Yeah, the Ravens have the division locked up, and so they have their playoff spot locked up as well. Actually, I think they technically could still lose the division to the Bengals, but they have their playoff spot locked up nonetheless. So this game makes sense maybe why we're not seeing Lamar Jackson rush back in there. The Steelers technically still have a chance at making the playoffs. If they win both of their next games, their odds go up to 17% according to 538's playoff odds calculator. But they got to win their next 2 games, and a lot of other pieces need to fall into place. That being said, I'm taking the Ravens here, and I think the Steelers' playoff chances end tonight. Not their year in my mind. With a loss against Baltimore, that's going to knock him out. I think Tyler Huntley can get it done for them. I did want to ask you about some of the players in this game, Joey. So on the Baltimore side, it feels like that running back position should have so much value. And we've seen it pay some this year. Kenyon Drake had a couple really relevant weeks for fantasy football in there. Gus Edwards as well when he's been the starter. What are you doing with the running backs in this game? If you have J.K. Dobbins, are you feeling confident with him in your lineup tonight?
Yeah, I mean, if I have J.K. Dobbins, I'm starting him. I had him as a top 24 running back. That's where he's at pretty much the rest of the season. This is the last week, though. So if you have week 18 fantasy, one, talk to your commissioner, get that taken away. But two, he's, you can easily be startable next week as well.
What's worse, week 18 championships or week 16 championships?
Week 18. Devontae Adams just caught like a 60-yard reception. The Raiders might tie this game up. He's
pretty good, isn't he?
Man.
Devontae Adams. He's pretty good at football.
Quarterback proof. That's what he is.
It doesn't matter if Stidham's throwing the ball. I could get back there, could probably throw a 60-yard bomb to Devontae Adams, and I can't even throw the ball 60 yards.
I think Javonte Adams is going to come up a little bit later in a question I have for you. I kind of teased it earlier with you.
Ooh, we'll probably get him in there. We got Grim fan in the chat saying, Jags win. Commanders are my team next week, but I need a prize pick from you guys today. For second place, I can choose a team-signed ball from the 2001 Patriots or an all 2022-23 rookie running back signed football. So who are the rookie running backs that would be on that? So that would be Breece Hall. That would be Damian Pierce. That would be Tyler Algier. That would be Kenneth Walker as the running back signed, or a 2001 Patriots signed ball. Who's going to be on that one? Who is that 2001 Patriots team?
They didn't win the Super Bowl in 2001, did they?
Let's see. The 2001 New England Patriots.
Where's Coop when we need
they won the Super Bowl. They beat the Rams 20-17. Year.
You're going with the Super Bowl champion autograph ball. Because I imagine 2001 is Brady. Yeah, Brady's on there.
That was the year Brady. Was that his first Super Bowl, 2001?
Yeah. Graham, you're going to be taking this 2001 Patriots football and you're going to be flipping it to Coop for a price that'll make him put his house on mortgage.
Yo, Grim, take that Tom Brady signed Super Bowl team football. That's worth it alone with just the Tom Brady signature on there. Mm-hmm. That's pretty sick. What a sick prize. And congrats on the awesome season in that Eliminator League, Graham.
Absolutely.
Graham absolutely killed it. As far as the receiving options go for Baltimore, Joey, are there any besides Mark Andrews that you feel comfortable starting?
Just Mark Andrews. Robinson, I don't want any piece of. Yeah.
Nah, I'm with you. There's really nothing else on that Ravens side. Now on the Pittsburgh Steelers side, they've got a couple interesting pieces at receiver. Yeah. We talked about Kenny Pickett, but George Pickens, Deontay Johnson. What are you doing with these Pittsburgh receivers?
So I've been pretty much Pickens over Johnson all season. And I think that's just more of a look for the future. So I would prefer Johnson over Pickens in this game. But looking forward to next year, I think Pickens will end up winning this job out.
I fully agree with you, Joey. Deontay Johnson as of right now, but George Pickens looks like the future at the position for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he looks like a true wide receiver one on the field. Like he just looks like an alpha wide receiver. And I think Deontay Johnson will still get the work there if he stays on that team. Grim fan want to know, ETN is on the rookie ball, right? If it's just rookies from this year, he's not technically a rookie because he sat out the entirety of last season after getting injured. I think it was a Liz Frank injury, if I'm not mistaken, that ETN had. But he missed his entire rookie year. So although in practice this was his rookie year, he is technically not a rookie. We got Mr. Scammers in here said, hi, guys. Scammers. I got Brady Evans. Hope anyone else had an awesome day. Yikes. Yeah, you're not coming back from that one, are you? That one's pretty tricky to come back from.
In my big money league, I had Tom Brady at quarterback, which is very exciting, but my opponent had Mike Evans. Which is very frustrating, but exciting because I'm a Bucs fan, but more frustrating because I want some money.
Yeah. How many points do you have if you started those two guys? In a 4-point per touchdown PPR league, if you started both of those guys, you are kicking it off with 86.38 points just between those two players. Good luck.
Unreal. I believe the guy that's leading Scott Fishbowl had both of them in his lineup.
It worked out. Worked out pretty well. DJ in here said Seahawks beat the Jets 23-6. Shout out Geno Smith. And I guess not shout out the Jets. What's going on with the Jets, Joey?
They travel cross country. I said it this morning. I didn't think the Jets were going to have a super great game. Mike White's first like real cross country trip that I believe he's had this season. So I kind of said this morning I thought Seahawks would win this. I didn't think it was gonna be this big, but Josh Jacobs just got a touchdown. 34-34. Wow.
I was just about to say this game is tied up with 1:11 left in the fourth quarter. Oh my gosh, we're gonna get another crazy game. There's some crazy football games last night. Joey, I have to tell you something funny that my dad did last night. My dad's not a huge football fan, right? Mm-hmm. And my mom's side of the family, they are diehard Ohio State fans. Like not kind of like where I've had uncles like where I was up in Ohio for a funeral the day that Clemson and Ohio State were playing each other, a family funeral. And after the game, I had an uncle like give me the death glare and leave my aunt's house without speaking to me because of a Clemson Ohio State game. Like, and this is after my great aunt's funeral. So like they go hard on this. Georgia beats Ohio State in unbelievably exciting fashion right now. And in the group message with my mom's entire side of the family, oh man, why can't I find the message in here? My dad comes in like right after the game ends and sends this incredible message, something along the lines of, I can't say I'm sad that Ohio State lost tonight. Anyways, Happy New Year. And just like there was no need for it, just to the entire family.
So unneeded shade. Just
it was something right I know you guys are sad, but I sure am glad Georgia won. Happy New Year. And then just leaves it at that. And he never talks football to them. I was just cracking up laughing as I saw that message. Absolutely beautiful.
So we got Georgia and TCU now.
Georgia TCU in the national championship game. I got to pull for Georgia. I got to pull for the back. I grew up, born and raised in Georgia. I've got so many friends that went to UGA. I would love to see all of them happy.
That's very nice of you. Happy. I'm rooting for the underdog.
And DJ said, I doubt we will get another Jacobs 86-yard game-winning touchdown in overtime, though. Watch it happen now because you said that, DJ.
Yeah, watch it. That happened on stream, I believe. We were just sitting here and we're like, wait a minute. Why does Josh Jacobs have so many fantasy points now? We found out when none of us had it on our screens. That was funny.
We'll see what happens. We've seen this script before.
Mm-hmm.
Joey, as far as the Pittsburgh Steelers running back room goes, Naji Harris has had a wildly disappointing year for fantasy after being one of the guys that was, some people had him up all the way at RB1, but he was a top 5 guy for a lot of analysts and a lot of people out there. Are you expecting a bounce back year from him next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think this offense was just figuring itself out this year. I mean, they got a rookie quarterback. Nobody was sure if Pickett was going to get the start this season. Ends up starting most of the season for the Steelers. I think this offense in the offseason gets it figured out, and Naji has a much better season than he did in his sophomore year. It's a true sophomore slump for him.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Joey. It'll be interesting to see where he's getting drafted next year because I've said it multiple times over the back half of this season. I think we're going to see trends reverse a little bit next year, and where we've been getting great value on the top end wide receivers at the back end of the first and through the second round. I think next year we're going to start seeing great values on some of these top end running backs that disappointed or got injured, on the Javonte Williams, on the Jonathan Taylors, heck, on the Joe Mixons, on the Josh Jacobs, on the Najee Harris. Like, I think these guys are going to fall, and we're going to get some decent value on running backs next season.
Yeah, it's going to be a mixed bag next year for sure. I've already kind of come out and said, and it's not a bold take at all, is Justin Jefferson's going to be a number 1 overall pick for me next year, my 101. And I'm kind of hoping this game today kind of maybe pushes people will remember this, like what happened with Jefferson in their championship game. Maybe he slides down to like 3 or 4. You know,
unfortunately for you, people are going to see him play again before fantasy football next year. And I got a feeling he's not going to have a couple dud games in a row. That dude likes to show up and ball.
Has Jefferson done anything? Alexander was, I don't want to say he was shutting him down, but he was getting shut down. Has he put anything together? It was just 1 catch for 15 yards last time I looked.
No, I think he still hasn't shown up for fantasy all that much. Let's see if it's gotten too much better for him. No, it's still just a 1 catch for 15 yards, wow. Joey. Not doing so hot.
I just had a delivery Jefferson of some coffee in my front yard fantasy mug.
Nice. I've just been having random Browns memorabilia show up on my front porch over the past week, and I'm realizing it was my cousin's Secret Santa gift, and it's just showing on pieces. I got this sick Browns table mat that got delivered, and then today I got a skinny can metal Browns koozie that's just absolutely delicious. We're getting loaded up for the off season.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk about the Browns game with you, actually, in a little bit.
We'll get to it, but first, there's a game that I'm even more excited to talk about with you, Joey. We're going to move over to this momentarily. We got to talk about that Bucs-Panthers games. The Bucs not only winning, but locking up their division, securing their spot in the playoffs today with that victory over the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, last week it was Tom Brady just instilled a bunch of false hope in me, but this week that hope is right back, baby. This game's back and forth pretty much all day. The Buccaneers trailed early, 14-0, and then they rallied back to get it to 14-10 at halftime. And at the beginning of the fourth quarter, the Buccaneers were trailing 21-10 again, but rallied again thanks to 2 of Mike Evans' 3 touchdowns to lead the team to a 30-21 right at the 2-minute warning. The Panthers sadly were not able to tie the game up in the final 2 minutes, and the Buccaneers win the game and the NFC South division 30-24. So we got to talk about Mike Evans. Yeah. 3 massive touchdowns today on pretty much the same play. I think our friend Wyatt at JWB Fantasy or Dynasty said that was the exact same play 3 times for that touchdown. So he finished. So Mike Evans now has finished with his 9th straight season with over 1,000 receiving yards. He also passed 10,000 yards for his career last week. And after today's game, he moves up to 44th all-time in receiving yards in NFL history behind Keyshawn Johnson, and also moves into a tie for 30th all-time in receiving touchdowns. Simon, we've had this conversation. Is Mike Evans a Hall of Fame wide receiver?
Listen, since he's entered the league, he has done absolutely nothing but produce 1,000-yard seasons. Every year, every single year, 9 years in a row since he's entered the league, he has now hit 1,000 yards receiving. That stretch of not just good, but great wide receiver play with some elite seasons sprinkled in there. You've got some seasons, a lot of double-digit touchdown seasons, but some up in 12, 14 range. The dude averages just about 10 touchdowns a year. So if you're asking me if a wide receiver over a 9-year career, like let's just assume the career ends today, a 9-year career, he hits 1,000 yards in every single one of them and averages double-digit touchdowns, that's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. That's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And then people, you can't even make the quarterback argument because only the last 2 years have been with Tom Brady.
Exactly.
Right? He's done this without Tom Brady. Honestly, this year was a challenge doing it with Tom Brady compared to doing it with some of the other quarterbacks he's done it with. He deserves to be a Hall of Famer without a doubt in my mind.
I went to Twitter and I put a poll up and I said, was it Hall of Famer, Ring of Honor at best, or too early to tell? And 70% Hall of Famer. So let's hope Twitter's right there. I would love to go to Fantasy Football Expo in 10 years and then get to visit the Mike Evans bust. That'd be a happy day for me.
Oh, me too. He's one of my favorite players of all time. DJ said, hell no. He gets hurt too much, though. I mean, he can't be hurt that much if he's hitting 1,000 yards every single season.
And he's got a ring. Like his big problem in the first 3 years of his career was drops. He was dropping balls left and right, and he's really kind of corrected that a lot. I don't know. We'll see. I think he needs a couple more seasons to just kind of solidify it. But I think getting that ring with Brady is I might have sealed it for me. But speaking of Brady, Tom Brady, 34 for 45 today, 432 yards passing, 3 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. So it was a true GOAT game today. No running back for Tampa Bay was really great for fantasy today. Leonard Fournette did have 8.7 PPR fantasy points, and Rachaad White just had 11 carries for 22 yards. Chris Godwin had a great day. He's been a PPR monster for the Bucs this year. 9 receptions for 120 yards. The Panthers lost this game, but Sam Darnold actually looked pretty good. 23 for 37, 341 yards passing, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. DJ Moore continues to look good with Sam Darnold. 6 receptions, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Shi Smith, let's talk about him a little bit. 4 receptions, 70 yards, and a touchdown. It's only his second game of the season with over 69 yards receiving. Do you have any interest in Shi Smith next year, Simon?
He's one of those players that I think is a great candidate to throw on the back of your dynasty roster. I'm not spending up to go and try to acquire him onto my team. I'm not trading away like a second or first round pick. I'm probably not even trading just a third straight up for Shi Smith. But if you can get him for a fourth, if you can get him thrown in as an extra piece on a dynasty trade, I think he's the kind of player we've seen little flashes that he's worth holding on to on your roster as this team tries to figure out who that wide receiver 2 is next to DJ Moore.
Excellent. As far as the Panthers running game, Chuba Hubbard, 6 total touches for 65 yards today. Donta Foreman led the team in carries for 13 carries for 35 yards. So, Christian McCaffrey is now in San Francisco. That game is now going to overtime. So no more Christian McCaffrey in Carolina. Do you see either Chuba Hubbard or Donta Foreman as a starting running back for the Panthers next season? Or do you think they address the position through the draft or free agency?
I hope it's not Chuba Hubbard and Donta Foreman going into next season. Otherwise, it's going to be one of these ones where both of them get drafted in the 7th, 8th round. We don't know who the starter is going into next season. We've seen great games from both of these players. It's probably Donta Foreman that I would prioritize over Chuba Hubbard if these are the 2 backs on their roster going into next season. But I have to imagine they add someone else. You hope as a fantasy manager that it's a high draft pick on a running back because that makes it a little bit clearer. If they spend a 1st or 2nd round pick on a back, the most likely outcome is they bring in a Latavius Murray, a Jerick McKinnon, one of these backs that's in a similar tier to the backs already on their roster, and then we're just left with a mess. We're left with a mess.
It's kind of how I'm feeling too. Yeah, but that's it for this game.
Not great. It's been so great seeing DJ Moore find success over these past couple games with Darnold, and it just makes me wish that Darnold had been starting all year for DJ Moore.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Darnold, but I did take a lot of DJ Moore because I thought him and Baker were going to be special together and proved not to be. But just for all my DJ Moore shares, I would have liked to seen the production from like the last 4 weeks, season long.
Absolutely. Damon here said, "Hey there, friends. What's up, Dame? Welcome in."
Hey, Dame. Dame, get back with this in the chat. I want to know who you got left in Scott Fishbowl. I want to know who I got to root for in the next 2 games.
Scammer said correct. I have Justin Jefferson. Joey said not only did he get Mike Evans and Tom Brady, his number 1 player, Justin Jefferson, is sitting on his roster with 1 catch for 15 yards. 2.5 PPR fantasy points. I'm sorry, Mr. Scampers. That's rough. That's absolutely rough. We got JL in here saying, "Hey, what's up, JL?
Hey, JL.
Hope you're feeling all right."
Yeah.
And Jacob in here, Joey, your co-manager in the JWB Coney League, said, "Joey, we got overtime for Purdy, but we're going to need a season-making game out of Burrow. Forever wishing I didn't talk myself out of McBride." Did you guys almost start Trey McBride this week?
We did. We had so many injuries on our team. Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel. I can't even remember. All of our quarterbacks were injured at some point this season. We were really riding high for like the first 11 weeks. Looked really great. And we have just stumbled into this championship game somehow against Troy King. And I don't know. I think if Burrow has a good game, like he says, we're going to pull it out because Troy's letting us hang around. And those are the championships you lose when you let your opponent just kind of hang around just in that little area. And then a Monday Night Miracle comes through. And so I feel like it's going to happen with Burrow this week. I'm going to say it right here on the show.
We got Cody in here saying, "Lick my butthole."
Okay.
Cody, come on, take me to dinner first, man.
Yeah.
Get me some Chili's Texas cheese fries or something, and then we'll talk. But before that, it's a no starter, Cody.
Yeah.
Now it's some cheese fries in my system.
Pretty awesome beard he had there, though.
Yeah, you lick my butthole. Grim said, "I could see David Montgomery going to Carolina next year." Hey,
that's a great call, Grim. We've been talking a lot about that this season with David Montgomery. He's an unrestricted free agent. Grim, I like that call.
I think that would be fun. I think I would like David Montgomery there in Carolina. He would clearly be the best back out of the backs on the roster ahead of Chuba Hubbard and Donta Foreman.
Mm-hmm.
Tricks in here had a question for us. J.K. Dobbins or Deontay Johnson? Which way you rolling, Joey?
I will go J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins in this one as well. Also, Grim wanted to know, do you think we finally see Taysom Hill take over as the full-time QB in New Orleans next year? I don't think so. I don't think we ever see Taysom Hill as a full-time quarterback. I don't think he has what it takes.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Simon.
Unless there's injury or something that causes it, I don't think we're going to see that. Joey, let's move on to our next game. The next game we got to talk about is this Miami-New England game. The New England Patriots coming out on top in this one, 23-21, securing the division, securing their playoff spot. The New England Patriots are playoff bound, and the Dolphins, they still got a chance, but this is making it a little bit harder for them to sneak into those playoffs. Ramondre Stevenson, I feel like people were hoping for a big game from Damian Harris his first week back, and it did not happen for either back. Ramondre Stevenson, 8 carries, 42 yards. Damian Harris, 9 carries, 32 yards. After what we've seen from Ramondre this year and his usage, even when Damian Harris has been healthy, Joey, do you think this was a case of his health and them not wanting to use him as a full workhorse back? Or do you think they want to split between these two guys?
I can't imagine they want to split between them after what the work we've seen from Ramondre have. Bill Belichick has been notoriously like, okay, what's he going to do at running back? For years, I would never draft a Patriots running back because I just didn't know what was going to happen. But I feel like we do know what's going to happen with Ramondre. He seems the most talented out of all these backs. Today, I'm just going to kind of chalk it up to just being one of those games because I like what I've seen before from Stevenson.
Are you viewing Ramondre as the lead back in that offense going into next season?
Absolutely. I believe Damian Harris is an unrestricted free agent as well after this year. So that's one of the other reasons too, like with David Montgomery. Now, is this a situation where Damian Harris just kind of gets ridden because they know he's not going to be there next year? Possibly.
Yeah. I mean, and Ramondre Stevenson, to your point, Joey, is the running back 8 prior to this week. So going into this week, the running back 8 in PPR formats, averaging 15.3 fantasy points per game, which is exactly the same as Dalvin Cook. It's more than an Aaron Jones. It's more than a Miles Sanders and Alvin Kamara this year. So he's up there with the big dogs whenever it comes to fantasy production. How high are you drafting Ramondre Stevenson next year? A top 12 back? Is he in that range for you?
If Damian Harris is not there, he's a top 12 running back for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Joey. He's got to be up there in that range as a top 12 back. Now, if Damian Harris does come back, does that change it for you?
Top 13 running back. No, I'm kidding. Probably in that 15 to 20 range, I would take him.
Yeah. Also, Damien here letting us know, unfortunately, I'm done in Scott Fishbowl. I tried, but didn't bring home that W for FYF. And JLN here's got the real answer, Dame. The real W was the friends we made along the way.
That's true. Dame, I wanted to go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say, what an accomplishment even making it to the Scott Fishbowl Finals. Only 30 teams making it there. So shout out Dame on making it to the SFB Finals. It's quite the accomplishment.
I feel like, Dame, you had every single show rooting for you. Like all the shows that you pop in on the chat. Because, I don't just watch FYF shows. Like, Jorge Martin's, what's Familia FFB? Like they were all rooting for you. You had the whole fantasy industry behind you, Dame. I feel.
Absolutely. Who wasn't cheering for Dame?
Jay Wall.
No, maybe Cody Hansen out here just cheering for buttholes to be licked. Everyone else was cheering for Dame. DJ in here said, do the Patriots move Tyquan Thornton up the wide receiver depth chart now next season? Hey, so Tyquan Thornton, he had himself a decent game here. 7 targets, 3 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown. Joey, is Tyquan Thornton a player you're interested in Dynasty?
Yeah, he's the kind of player I think I'd be taking towards like in redraft towards the end of my drafts, like, take a flyer on him. But we've seen these little flashes from him. And, Mac Jones needs to build rapport with one receiver on this team. It's probably going to be Tyquan Thornton if Jacoby Myers isn't there next year. So, I like him in Dynasty, especially, though, going into his second year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, take your shot on Tyquan Thornton. Was Tyquan Thornton the player that was like the fastest player at the NFL Combine, Joey? Am I remembering that correctly?
Well, I had my headphones off. I didn't hear a word you said, buddy.
Tyquan Thornton was the player that was the fastest player at the Combine, right?
I wouldn't be shocked. Every time he runs, I can't really see him because he's so thin and he's moving fast. And I still have like one of those box televisions. I don't have like any of those nice flat screen TVs.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He ran a 4.2840 at the Combine. So that dude is fast. He's got that athletic skill set. So we'll see if Tyquan Thornton turns into something else over here.
Yeah.
Also, Miss Queen Rotom in here wanted to know how do they decide the NFC East if the Dallas Cowboys win the last game and Philly loses the last game? So if Dallas wins the last game and Philly loses the last game, I believe Dallas does in fact win the division via tiebreaker. I forget what the tiebreaker is, but if Dallas wins and Philly loses, which would be 3 wins to end the season for Dallas, 3 losses to end the season for Philly, Dallas will win that division if I'm not mistaken, right, Joey?
Because they're 1-1 against each other this season, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
So I want to say that the tiebreaker comes down to, God, is it the Minnesota game that Dallas won and then Philadelphia lost?
let's see. If at the end of the regular season, 2 or more clubs in the same division finish with identical won-loss percentages, here's how they decide it. Head-to-head, so it would be best won-loss tied percentage, so that would be even. Then it would be the best won-loss tied percentage in games played within the division. So that is the next criteria. So I imagine that's where it would come down to, and it would come down to your win-loss percentage within the division. And that Eagles loss to the Commanders may be the difference in deciding who's going to get that 1 seed.
Because Dallas plays the Commanders next week.
So we'll see what happens there. But that would be pretty exciting. Yeah, the Commanders next week have Dallas, and so Dallas would have to beat the Commanders in order to steal that last spot. And Scampers, and you're saying correct, Simon. And Wes wanted to know, should I start Naji or Dobbins? Where are you rolling here, Joey?
I would go Dobbins. Naji, he does scare me rest of the season this year. Rest of the season being this one game.
Yeah, I'm going Dobbins as well here. I'll start Dobbins if I have to pick between the two. Hopefully we get a big Dobbins game with Tyler Huntley sitting there at quarterback. On the Dolphins side of this ball, Teddy Bridgewater went 12 for 19, 161 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And Skylar Thompson came into the game as well, 12 for 21, 140 yards, also a touchdown and an interception. Tyreek Hill had a rushing touchdown during this game today, but was fairly quiet through the air compared to what we've seen from him so far this season. Joey, is Tyreek Hill a top 5 wide receiver going into next season?
He's my number 2 wide receiver next season.
Behind Justin Jefferson?
Behind Justin Jefferson. In the Better Sports way too early draft, I took him at number 7 overall as a second wide receiver. Especially if Tua is back next year. Like, listen, there's other concerns right now with Tua with his own health, and I hope that everything works great for him and that he's very healthy and then he can play football again if that's what he chooses to do. We've seen Tyreek Hill look great with Patrick Mahomes, which, people are going to look great with Patrick Mahomes, but his rapport with Tua is exciting to see. Tyreek Hill, he's my number 2 wide receiver next year, assuming Tua is going to be there.
I'm with you. He is my number 2 wide receiver as of right now going into next season.
Let's go, Simon. Joey. Let's get jerseys.
And Jalen Waddle's probably going to be a top 12 guy for me as well going into next season. Now, this is dependent on Tua coming back and playing, right? Which I know there are actual question marks with what happened with his head injuries this year, multiple head injuries. We may not see Tua back on the field, but hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully we get him back, and then both those guys are top 10 wide receivers for me next year.
I mean, Mike McDaniel looks like he has created something here in Miami. It's exciting. Absolutely. He might be able to go out and get another. I mean, listen, Derek Carr could come in. Different type of quarterback, but Jimmy throw him in the system. Yeah.
There's a couple decent quarterbacks out there that could land on this team. Miss Queen Rodham said, I watched the live overtime game. I see that game just ended. Whenever we're on here, we got it, usually on another screen, and we're keeping up with it. But
what happened? Tell me.
Game-winning field goal. The 49ers win in overtime, 37-34. Niners win. That's very Raiders, isn't it? To go toe-to-toe with, arguably the best team in the league and then lose in overtime off a field goal.
Yeah.
Wah, wah. Sorry, Raiders. Yeah. Geek Hippie had a question for us. Said Ravens defense a play tonight on FanDuel against the Kenny Pickett-led Steelers. You think that's a play, Joey?
I think it is a play. What's the salary on it?
With a 35.5 point over-under, the defenses are in play. Especially on a single game slate. We're looking at a game with 35.5 projected points. That's what the total's set at. Yeah, you can get those defenses in there. And if I got to play one of them, I'm preferring the Ravens defense over the Steelers defense. What about you, Joey?
That's a 20-17 game.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Also, DJ said, I know that I should probably know this already being a Jets fan, but does their loss tonight knock them out of contention, or are they still alive? Also, how about the Lions still being alive in their playoff race? I'll let you know right now, DJ, if the Jets are still alive. Joey,
I do know about the Lions. Yeah, when the Commanders lost today, a bunch of teams got a lot of their percentages went up. The Lions, the Packers, and there was another, and the Seahawks. Their chances to make the playoffs went up dramatically. And it was right after one of the announcers said, there's a chance that all NFC East teams could make the playoffs. And then the Commanders started to go downhill.
I'm not certain, but I think the Jets are dead, DJ, with this loss today. I think the Jets are dead. I'm seeing less than 0.1% chance. I don't think they're making the playoffs. I apologize, my friend. But you saw a lot of promise from this Jets team this year.
Yes.
Huge turnaround compared to where they were over the past couple seasons. both these New York teams, we're going to get some good football from the two New York teams over the next couple of years. You both got great coaches, and these teams are hot going into the next season. Kaden said, I'm a champ, one by one. Woo! Nice job, Kaden. One by one. And said, not to mention, I lost Tua, Henry, and D-Hop this week and still pulled it out.
That makes it so much sweeter. Kaden, I believe you were the one that was in the big money league, and I said, come back and let us know how you did. And I hope that I remember correctly, and you're telling us you one by one the big money, because Simon and I would like a pizza delivered to us.
Yeehaw! One to eat.
Just kidding.
We'll find one location. We'll meet in what's exactly between Florida and Texas?
Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great. Niner gang in here saying number 2 seed hype.
Let's go.
You guys can make a run in the playoffs this year. I'm excited to see this Niners team in the playoffs. And then Miss Queen Rhoda wanted to know, who's your rookie of the year and MVP? So Joey, who is your rookie of the year if you had to pick one?
I think my MVP is a little easier.
Okay, wait. Start with the MVP.
Yeah, even though he's missed, I think it's Jalen Hurts. What he's done in Philadelphia, either running the ball or throwing the ball, he's looked so amazing this year. The Eagles are headed to the playoffs. Yeah, I can't think of anyone I would put. I guess Patrick Mahomes, but it'd be Jalen Hurts for me.
Yeah, it's probably Jalen Hurts for me as well, but I think Patrick Mahomes is the most likely to win it, probably. It seems like with what the Chiefs have been doing over the past couple weeks that they love giving the award to the best quarterback on arguably the best team, and the Chiefs had closed out the season pretty strong. So I wouldn't be shocked with Jalen Hurts getting injured to see Patrick Mahomes win this.
Who's your rookie of the
year? I don't know, man. That's a much tougher question, I feel like, the rookie of the year. I wish Breece Hall had played an entire season because I feel
Dameon Pierce would have played a whole season.
Yeah, Dameon Pierce stopped playing as well over there.
There for a while,
got injured. I think it's going to be Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's probably been the most consistent and the player that's put up the most impressive rookie performance from beginning to end in my mind.
It was Olave for about the first 8 weeks for me. After Breece Hall went down, I was like, okay, now it's Chris Olave's. But I guess Garrett Wilson has been the most consistent.
What about Brock Purdy? Could you see Brock Purdy coming on late in the year winning it? They love giving it to quarterbacks.
No, they'll find another award for him to win. I don't know what it'll be, but he'll get something. They'll make up an award. Is the Walter Payton Man of the Year award given out yet? They'll find a way to give that to Brock Purdy.
I'm trying to think if it was on the defensive side, maybe some Sauce Gardner for defensive rookie of the year. Get some Gardner in
Sauce there. Has that locked up.
Maybe Aiden Hutchinson. He's been playing pretty well for the Lions over there as well, but I think it's got to be Sauce.
Yeah.
Got to be Sauce. And Niner gang in here calling it Super Bowl MVP for Brock Purdy.
You know what, Niner? You are correct. There's the award Brock Purdy will win.
I love it. No hesitation. Joey said they'll find an award for him. And Niner says, yeah, I got one. How about MVP of the freaking Super Bowl for Mr. Irrelevant?
I mean,
can you imagine the 30 for 30?
Didn't Nick Foles get a Super Bowl MVP?
He did. Yeah,
Nick Foles if he gets one, everybody's going to get one. So, yeah.
Yeah, but like rookie year to go from Mr. Irrelevant to a Super Bowl MVP would be one of the wildest sports stories. Albert in here said, hello, everyone.
Albert.
What's up, Albert? Welcome in.
Welcome
in. And Grim fan asking Kaden, you're not Kaden Otten, are you? At Kaden the Colts fan? I don't know. Maybe we got Caden Otten in the chat today. Cade Otten hanging out with us. Joe, you ready to move on to our next game here?
If Cade Otten's in the chat, I'd kind of talk to him a little bit, but yeah, let's move on to the next game.
The next game we're going to talk about is the Denver-Kansas City game. Kansas City starting out rather sluggish in this one, but turning it on to get the victory 27-24 over the Denver Broncos. And I don't know what it is about this Broncos team, but they seem to just consistently play this Kansas City team pretty close. They're just playing them close. It doesn't matter what this Broncos team looks like. They're staying close to the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes doing what Patrick Mahomes does. Beautiful. Over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Had an interception in the end zone as well. But whenever you throw 3 touchdowns over 300 yards and get the W, it really ends up not mattering all that much. 2 of those touchdowns went to one, Mr. Jerick McKinnon. And that's where I want to start, Joey. Jerick McKinnon has been a fantasy football superstar down the stretch here.
Yeah, he has.
Number 1 overall finishes on certain weeks over the past 3 weeks, was the number one running back over a 2-week stretch. And now we add another 2 touchdown through the air game for him. But he was on a 1-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, an unrestricted free agent unless they re-sign him going into next year. Are you interested in Jerick McKinnon next year if he stays on the Kansas City Chiefs? And are you interested in him if he finds himself in a new position after what he showed this year?
Yes and yes. If he stays with the Chiefs, I'm absolutely interested in him. It's very intriguing to think of how high he'll go in drafts, because this run down the stretch has been amazing for Jerick McKinnon. But I feel like we've fallen for the trap for Jerick McKinnon before. So maybe like 3rd, 4th round. But if he goes somewhere else, it really matters where he goes.
Carolina.
If Darnold's still the quarterback, I would draft him for my team, but I would take him as like an RB2, even though he's had this great stretch. Because I think a lot of it has to do with Patrick Mahomes, which is very safe to say that.
Yeah. If he stays on the Chiefs, I'm a lot more interested than if he goes to a new position, just because we've seen him not succeed on so many teams, but we've seen him succeed in this scheme. So I'm going to take him probably fairly high if he stays here on the Chiefs. But man, Jerick McKinnon probably brought some fantasy championships home today with this performance. Helped you get there and then brought the championship home for you. Now, the other backs on this team, Isaiah Pacheco, 9 carries, 31 yards, and a touchdown. He's been pretty good as a rookie as well after getting some preseason hype. What are you doing with Isaiah Pacheco heading into next season? Do you think he's got a shot at being the lead back in this offense?
I'm drafting him, even if McKinnon's still there. I love that we've seen from Isaiah Pacheco, and I think it's only going to get better for him. What we have with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't think he's going to be even in this mix next year. So it's Isaiah Pacheco and McKinnon for me. And if McKinnon's not there, Pacheco's got a really good role.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they'll probably bring somebody else in if McKinnon walks, but I'm with you, Joey. And you segued perfectly into my next question. If you're a dynasty manager with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, what are you doing? Are you hoping he ends up on a new team? Is there any value left in him? Are you selling him at this point in the season? What are you doing with CEH?
I think you have to hold because his value is kind of in the tank right now. So if you've got him, you got to hold him and just hope he lands somewhere else. We never hope for injury, so I don't want to say or hope Pacheco and McKinnon get injured because that's not cool. But we've seen this offense when Pacheco and McKinnon didn't have roles, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire wasn't really cashing in on it. So I think a change of scenery is probably best case scenario for him. Where that is, I don't really know.
I'm not sure if I hit this, and I want to make sure I do in case I didn't. What's up, Albert? Welcome in, my friend.
Albert, you did. We said hi to him.
Well, we're going to say it again, and maybe I'll do it one more time.
Make sure one more time for the industry will say hi again.
Yeah, we'll get you. Make sure Albert heard us saying hello over there. Does that make CEH a dynasty buy for you in case he does end up on a new team? He's a former first-round talent picked by the Kansas City Chiefs. Are you trying to trade for him?
So, one, I think he was overdrafted that year.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you don't let your quarterback make the draft picks.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, if somebody's going to just give him away for almost free, sure. Like, I would give up a back-end second-round pick for him to get him on my team.
There's a lot of ambiguity on this Kansas City Chiefs team going into next year because of the wide receiver position as well. Their best wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, had a bad game today, but signed a 1-year deal with the Chiefs. He's an unrestricted free agent as well. Do you think we see the Chiefs re-sign Juju?
I do. I think you have some of his talent learning the offense. I don't think you let him go after 1 year. I think they'll come to terms. And it's not like Juju can go out there and had a bang-up season that he can go and name his price. So I think Juju will be right back next year with the Chiefs. The
one hard thing is it is a weak free agent wide receiver class. Juju Smith-Schuster is far and away the premier option in this group. The next best player is probably Allen Lazard. So you may see someone just throw the bag at Juju Smith-Schuster, which is my fear because I want him back on the Chiefs, but I don't think they're going to throw the absolute bag at him. And with what this free agent wide receiver class looks like, someone's going to throw the bag at him. Someone's going to make him a very rich man this offseason. We saw it with Christian Kirk last year getting $21 million.
Yeah, the Jags knew something because he's been worth that.
Yeah, I was going to say he's looked great, but I think we see Juju get a similar deal this offseason. Hopefully with the Chiefs, but I'm not sure. I think I'm a little less optimistic that he ends up back there because of that. DJ in here saying Juju to the Bears.
So, okay, there's a question coming up that has to do with this. I think I've become a Bears fan somehow. because like I'm wanting whatever wide receiver, because they are going to go out and get a wide receiver this offseason. I want whoever that to be. Like they either trade up to get somebody like a T. Higgins. Listen, are you unhappy, Devontae Adams? Please come play Justin Fields. I just want to see Justin Fields be even better than he is now. But I would hate for it to be somebody that they throw the bag at, like Juju Smith-Schuster and Allen Lazard. That'd make me sad.
Yeah, don't go spend all your money on Allen Lazard and Juju Smith-Schuster Bears. On the Broncos side of the ball, really just one question I wanted to ask you, Joey.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson has had a wildly disappointing season. He's ending on a decent note with 3 total touchdowns in this game, but still didn't look like the old Russ. Is this the new Russell Wilson, or is he a sleeper going into next season? Do you think he's a quarterback you're going to be able to draft late that could come back next year and be the old Russ?
I think it has a lot to do with coaching, because Russell Wilson has his team behind him. When all the stories came out this week about Russell Wilson's got his own parking space, he's got his own office. I mean, Jerry Jeudy was one of the first players to step up to the plate and be like, there's a reason he has those things. Defended his quarterback. And I think that's really good when you see that. So he's got the team behind him. If they bring in Sean, you're hearing they're going to throw a bag at a coach. Talking about throwing a bag. The Denver Broncos are going to throw a bag at a coach. And if it's Sean Payton, I would be pretty excited about Russell Wilson. We saw what he did with Drew Brees. Now that's Drew Brees. But, yeah, I would be happy drafting Russell Wilson as like a QB2 to see what happens, because I like to be the guy that takes 2 quarterbacks at the very end of drafts, Jared Goff and Russell Wilson, and play the matchups.
And you're good to go. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you again. I'm drafting Russell Wilson next year. Mm-hmm. I believe in him, and I think this season is going to push his value way down outside of those top 10 quarterbacks, maybe outside of the top 12. We'll see how much hype around the head coaching hire in this offseason. The offseason hype trains are insane, so maybe we see him pushed back up there. But if he's going as outside of the top 12 quarterbacks, he's going to be a target for me next season. We've seen little flashes of it this year.
Yeah.
We've seen little flashes of it.
Dan Quinn was another coach that was mentioned in an article I read.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Man, Sean Payton would be wild in Denver. That would be crazy. Guys, we're going to move on to our next game here. The Detroit Lions beaten down on the Chicago Bears 41-10 in this one.
Yeah, so in a battle of nature's fiercest predators, the Lions proved to be the apex predators. The Bears took an early 10-7 lead in this game, but the Lions went on to put up 34 unanswered points to win the game 41-10. Lions, Jared Goff, 21 for 29, 255 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He looked great today at home. Jared Goff at home is one of the best quarterbacks in football this season, compiling a 23 touchdown to 3 interception ratio in 9 games. Earlier this season, that was the Matt Ryan, indoor-outdoor split. Now I've become the Jared Goff at home guy. So Goff is now the current QB9 on the season. Simon, are you looking at Goff as a starting quarterback for your fantasy team next year, or is he still kind of middle of the pack?
Yeah, I think you got to look at Jared Goff as a starting quarterback next season. And the good news, if you like Jared Goff, is that the Lions played themselves out of that top draft spot to draft one of these top quarterbacks this year. Now, of course, they could trade back up into it, right? We could see something along those lines. They've got the picks to do it. But I think after what they've seen from Jared Goff and the other holes that they have on this offense, that this team's just going to roll with Goff, and this offense is only going to get better after being one of the more electric units this year. Like, yeah, dude's probably a top 8 quarterback next year. Top 9.
Yeah. I mean, every year I go into drafts and because I like to do the quarterback tandem, like I mentioned earlier, take 2 quarterbacks and you play the matchups. And Jared Goff's somebody I'm really excited to take. Right before this big breakout from Trevor Lawrence, I thought it was going to be Lawrence and Goff were going to be 2 guys, but I think Lawrence has kind of risen above that now to where I will actually have to reach to get him a little bit. But Goff, there's 11 quarterbacks in front of Goff that people are going to be, fighting over. And then Jared Goff will just fall into your lap. So I like him as that back end quarterback, and he can prove that he can be a lot better than that, especially at home. So no Justin Jackson today for the Lions, which left 2 other running backs to have pretty good days. Jamal Williams, 22 carries, 144 yards, and a touchdown. Love seeing that from him today. And then DeAndre Swift, 11 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown, and then 4 receptions for 39 yards and a receiving touchdown. So this 2-headed monster for the Lions, just get Justin Jackson out of there, and it's coming through. So that was good. You happy to see that today, Simon?
Thrilled. Thrilled to see it. And I think this is what we're going to see from this Lions offense going forward. Both of these guys will be heavily involved. It's going to be the 1-2 punch. Swift, I expect to be the lead back usually. I think they're being extra careful with him at this point in the season after he's come back from that injury. But both these guys you got to start. And I told so many people to start Jamal Williams today. There were a lot of questions. So I'm just so happy to see that he came out there and showed up.
Yeah, once that Justin Jackson news came out, I was really comfortable saying, okay, yeah, you can put Jamal Williams in there. And it was looked bad the last 3 weeks, but he really did show out today. So I was happy to see that for him. Monroe St. Brown, double-digit PPR day, 4 receptions, 52 yards. So good to see from him. One of the best receivers in football right now. And then my brother and Tim Wright's brother, Brock Wright, 2 receiving touchdowns today. But he got it on 3 receptions. Yeah, like no one's happy to see that. So on the Bears side of the ball, Justin Fields, 7 for 21, 75 yards passing, but he had 132 yards rushing. That's pretty exciting. On the season, 1,143 rushing yards, second most rushing yards by a quarterback in a season in NFL history. He could go to break it next week. Lamar Jackson, the record I think is at 12:07. So very much a possibility that Justin Fields could have the most rushing yards by a quarterback in NFL history in one season. That's pretty cool to see. Cole Kmet still seems to be Justin Fields' favorite option to pass the ball down to. Just 2 receptions for 27 yards and a touchdown today. But we have seen Fields target Kmet. So here's the question I've been alluding to for the show. It's a little fun. The Bears obviously are in need of a wide receiver 1 for this offense. Simon, who would your dream receiver be to join this offense? You could pick anybody.
The Detroit Lions?
No, for Justin Fields.
Oh, for Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. I can pick any wide receiver to join this offense. DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins?
I think that's just unbelievably reliable target for Justin Fields. Someone where he can chuck the ball up in that vicinity and D-Hop's going to go get it. I like D-Hop as the quarter or as the wide receiver that would elevate Justin Fields' game, I think.
Excellent.
Devontae Adams would you couldn't argue about Devontae Adams there as well, though.
Adams is it for me, and it feels a little bit realistic. If he's really unhappy with the whole Derek Carr situation, if he doesn't follow Carr and he just wants to, because I believe if a team goes out to trade for Adams, the contract's actually really backloaded. So there's a possibility it would actually work out if the Bears did it. I was reading an article about it. So Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery are virtual 50-50 split this week, combining for 55 yards on 11 carries. Montgomery's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. And healthy Herbert should be the lead back for the Bears next year. Do you agree on that?
I do.
Kind of talking about it all year.
Yeah, Khalil Herbert should be the lead back here with David Montgomery likely walking. He's an unrestricted free agent, like you said, Joey. Excited to see where he lands and excited to see Khalil Herbert potentially with a full workload next year because he's looked good when he's had it. Yeah. Also, Graham and DJ in here both saying Jalen Waddle as the wide receiver that they would want to see added for Justin Fields. Yeah, that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely beautiful. I saw Grim in here had a question for us.
Okay.
Said, I'm looking at putting $10 on Kenny Pickett to have 250 plus passing yards and 2 plus passing touchdowns at plus 550. Would you put your money on that bet, guys? Grim, I would not. Kenny Pickett has had an aversion to throwing touchdowns this season, and this Ravens secondary has gotten better as the season's gone on. I'm not betting him to get it done against the Ravens secondary tonight. What about you, Joey?
No, for me, it's the passing yardage. I think he could get the 2 touchdowns, honestly, but the passing yards, I think he might have a little bit of trouble getting there.
That one's tough. That's a tough one for sure right there. Ready to move on to our next game, Joey?
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Also, before we did that, we mentioned Brock Wright in that game. I just wanted to mention the sick joke that the best tight ends this week were. So, of course, on Thursday night, we had Dalton Schultz. But then tonight, the tight ends that everybody started, of course, Trey McBride, Brock Wright, Colby Parkinson, Tyler Conklin, Albert Akwe-Bunum, Tommy Tremble, Logan Thomas, just all the usual suspects finishing with great tight end performances in your fantasy championship, right?
Yeah, I dropped the Tommy Tremble recommendation early on the show, but I wasn't talking about him. I had the stomach issue, so I dropped the Tommy Tremble, and that should have been a sign for us to start him this week.
Just beautiful. Also, Geek Hippie in here saying Higgins for Fields. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Higgins there. That would be a lot of fun. And he would immediately be the one in that offense. There wouldn't be any more 1A, 1B situation like there is with Justin Fields right now, or with Jamar Chase. Next game we're going to talk about, guys, is this New Orleans Philadelphia Eagles game. The Eagles, all they had to do is win one of these final 3 games to lock up that number 1 overall seed, the first round bye, and the division. And so far, they're 0-2 with Gardner Minchu and attempting to do that. Lost a close one to the Cowboys last week and a not as close one to the Eagles this week. Gardner Minchu, 18 for 32, 274 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. It was a fine game. It was a totally fine game from Gardner Minchu. Nothing incredible, but nothing horribly abysmal from him either. Joey, do you think Gardner Minshew is going to find himself a starting job in the league, or do you think he's going to stay put here on the Eagles as their backup?
I think he's going to stay put. I think if he would have had 2 better games the last 2 weeks, I think it would have been a great audition for him to get a job. I mean, the Jets are most likely looking for a quarterback next year. I can't imagine.
What do you mean? They got Mike MF and White.
Well, I don't know. But I think Minshew is going to stay right here with the Eagles next year as their backup, which makes me sad because I did want to see Minshew get a starting job.
But if there's any team that understands the value of a high caliber backup quarterback, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. With Nick Foles winning them a Super Bowl, it helps to have a guy in there that you're not just comfortable with, but happy with running that offense. And I think Minshew is good enough to be a starter somewhere, but I'm with you, Joey. I think he ends up staying here. Miles Sanders, 12 carries for 61 yards in this loss for the Eagles. But yet again, year in, year out, Joey, all he does is average 5 yards per carry. He looks fantastic every time he touches the ball. How are you drafting Miles Sanders next year in this Eagles offense?
Top 24 running back.
Yeah, I think I'm rolling with him as a top 24 back, but he's the kind of guy who has top 12 upside if the touchdowns start rolling his way. The only thing standing in the way of that is Jalen Hurts loves those rushing touchdowns near the goal line.
Yeah, and that's one thing I thought with Jalen Hurts being out is that it would turn into Miles Sanders getting those goal line work, and that's not been proved to be true. So that made me a little sad to see.
A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, both with great games. Devonta Smith, 9 receptions on 13 targets for 115 yards. A.J. Brown, 9 targets, 4 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Joey, are both of these guys top 24 wide receivers for you next season?
Absolutely. Devonta Smith has really turned it on at the end of the season. I did think that with Gardner Minshew, he would be the more targeted wide receiver out of the two of them. I'm glad to see A.J. Brown still getting good work. But Devonta Smith is absolutely a top 24 wide receiver for me next season. This Eagles offense is so exciting. I'm
curious to see where Smith gets drafted because I feel like he's often the forgotten piece of this Philadelphia Eagles offense for fantasy. Like people remember A.J. Brown, they remember Miles Sanders, they remember Jalen Hurts, how they remember Dallas Goedert, but Devonta Smith is almost viewed as like, oh, they got A.J. Brown now. If he's going a little bit late next year, I'm gonna have a lot of Devonta Smith. It sort of reminds me of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Like no one was putting the respect on Higgins this offseason, leading into drafts, and like Higgins turned out is he still a top 12 wide receiver right now? So you can have 2 top 12 wide receivers on a team. There's always at least one team with 2 top 12 wide receivers on it. Well, there was a couple, right? Yeah, there was 2 with I think the Seahawks guys have fallen out of it now. But a couple teams in contention every single year, and this duo is definitely one that's in contention. On the other side of the ball, Taysom Hill just had to do it one last time to fantasy managers. He ran a touchdown in, had 14 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown on the ground, completed 2 passes for 24 yards as well. Joey, is Taysom Hill a draftable tight end next season? If he's in the tight, yeah, like it's not exciting because it's hard to predict when he's going to do this, but you can't deny how efficient he is with the work he does get. So at the tight end position, because of position scarcity, yeah, I guess he's a draftable tight end. I'm curious if they will allow him to keep that eligibility next season, though. It'll be interesting. Who do you think's starting at quarterback for the Saints next year? Not Andy Dalton. I think the Saints are going to be a team that goes out and gets themselves a quarterback, whether that's through the draft or they go get Derek Carr, or if they want to take the shot on Minshew and they can pry him away from the Eagles. Or Jimmy Garoppolo, Zach Wilson, looks like he might have a new home next year. You think Baker Mayfield's on the move again after this year? He stepped in with Sean McVay and looked all right. They've got Matthew Stafford coming back. Do you think Baker Mayfield stays there, with McVay to be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford, or do you think he leaves and finds a new team?
I don't know if Stafford, he might retire.
You think he might retire?
I think he might retire.
And even if he doesn't, there seems to be some sort of connection between McVay and Mayfield, where Mayfield seems like he's found a place where he's happy and he's learning. So I think even if Stafford comes back, you see Mayfield know that Stafford's likely retiring in the next season or two if he doesn't this year, and he'll stay there in LA.
I'd really like to see Baker, have a good run with the Rams. So I hope he does stay.
Me too. But it's not the best time to join the Rams if you're looking for a good run. That team sold their soul and all of their draft picks and the premise of the salary cap to win a Super Bowl, and now they are paying the price. But they got that Super Bowl, so it doesn't matter. Joey, on the New Orleans Saints side of this, I see a question in here from Grim Fan saying, for some reason, I'm seeing Shaheed as the number 2 receiver for next year for these New Orleans Saints. Are you buying that Rashid Shaheed is the number 2 receiver after Chris Olave?
He looks like their true downfield threat. He's looked great the last few weeks. Shaheed is somebody I'm actually quite excited to draft next year. His name's just now starting to get brought up, and people need to be quiet so that I can draft him.
Now, if they bring a rookie quarterback in, that's going to throw some water on Rashid Shaheed for me. The downfield threats are often the players that suffer the most from having a rookie quarterback under center, as they're being a little more conservative with that play calling. But I'm with you, Joey. What we've seen from Shaheed has been very exciting. And if you're a dynasty player, maybe start sending out some feeler offers for Rashid Shaheed, see what you can get him for. Because maybe people haven't wisened up to the type of player that he is yet. That's it for me on this game. Let's move on to our next game, the Indianapolis Colts New York Giants game. And Jeff Saturday's magic seems to be leaving. The Giants looking electric in this game, dropping 38 points, winning this one 38-10
headed
over
to
the
playoffs
Colts, and securing their playoff berth with this win. Daniel Jones accounted for 4 touchdowns today in the victory and looked pretty great. Joey, my first question for you is about Daniel Jones. We saw the rumors of the reports this week that they did put a multi-year contract in front of Daniel Jones. They want to sign him as the quarterback going forward, is what it sounds like, after they secured their first playoff spot since 2016. Do you think this is the right move for the New York Giants to roll with Daniel Jones as their quarterback on a multi-year deal?
It's tricky. If I'm looking at the last few weeks, I'm going to say yes, because Daniel Jones has looked like a team that you can win with. I mean, obviously, the Giants are now going to the playoffs, but we've seen a track record with Daniel Jones that doesn't look as good, so I'm a little nervous for the Giants if they do roll Daniel Jones for the future.
Now, one of the points in his favor is they brought in their head coach, Brian Daboll, at least in part because of what he was able to do with Josh Allen and that Bills offense, right? He was able to turn Josh Allen into one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the best, that we watch play now. And he gives a lot of credit to Daboll for doing that. And now a full season with Daboll, and we're seeing Daniel Jones put together some nice games at the end of the season here. We still see some of those weird Daniel Jones moments from time to time. But I don't know. I think when you look at the quarterbacks available, if I'm the Giants, it makes the most sense to roll with Daniel Jones, to keep rolling with him. So I don't mind the move. If they can secure Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley for a couple more years, they got a team with a solid core where they might be able to make a run.
Yeah, I would like to see them get some good wide receivers, though, because it's Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James. That's they're performing well, but it's hard to really want to anchor your franchise on those guys.
Yeah, go out and sign some of the big name free agents like Marquise Goodwin and Allen Lazard for the New York Giants.
Marquise Goodwin burned me bad.
We're gonna have so many just mediocre signings during the offseason at the wide receiver position that we're going to have to think about. And I can't wait. Those are my favorite. Just the complete and utter speculation about a wide receiver 2 joining a team with a middling quarterback, and you got to somehow decide good or bad, when the answer is probably medium.
Why couldn't T.Y. Hilton wait till next year to go to a team? That'd have been a little exciting.
Yeah, then we get the T.Y. Hilton news. Yeah, instead he spoiled it for us ahead of time.
Go to Dallas. Oh, my gosh.
Nick Foles was knocked out of this game. And, Joey, did you see the celebration by Kayvon Thibodeau after knocking Nick Foles down in this game?
I hope that he didn't see him. I don't think he did, because the way football helmet, it's, the peripheral vision's a little blocked. So it doesn't look like he would have seen him because I can't imagine anybody's doing snow angels next to someone that's possibly concussed.
Yeah, I'm with you, Joey. I see the outrage out there. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt that he wouldn't do that if he saw what Nick Foles was doing on the ground there. But maybe a lesson going forward, guys. Don't lay down next to a player that's just been tackled and do snow angels because you don't know. Check and see if they're all right first before you start taunting them like that, because that was not a good look. Not a good look at all. What do you think these Colts are doing at quarterback next year? We just talked about the Giants. Do you think Nick Foles is the answer? Do you think they're going to roll with Sam Ehlinger, or what are they going to do here? Matt Ryan coming back?
I can't imagine they bring Matt Ryan back. This is probably the biggest question mark at a position. I mean, the Colts look like they might address the quarterback in the draft. Sam Ehlinger is not. He's not the quarterback of the future for the Colts.
He is not the quarterback of the future. Wait, Sam Ehlinger was a West. Did both of these quarterbacks go to the same high school? I feel like I'm just now hearing that. Did they say that on the broadcast? Where did Nick Foles go to high school? They both went to Westlake High School. So both of these guys are Westlake High School quarterbacks. I knew Ehlinger was from the Austin area. I didn't know Nick Foles was as well.
Nick Foles is who they based like Friday Night Lights off of, right?
I don't know. I don't know that fun fact about Friday Night Lights.
I think it was Nick Foles. That's like the.
DJ in here said, what did they say on the Foles injury from today? You got any update? Have you seen any updates on Nick Foles, Joey? Because I haven't
seen any updates, no.
We'll keep you updated if anything comes in, DJ. And Greg in here saying Steelers got to win. Well, they're only 1-point dogs against the Ravens tonight in Baltimore. So it's going to be a close game, or at least it should be. Vegas thinks it's going to be a close one, Greg. Let's roll into our next game here, Joey. The next game we got is the Cleveland Browns versus the Washington Commanders. And you said earlier you were excited to talk about this game with me.
Was I? Yeah.
That's what you said. You said those words out loud, unless you were lying.
No, I'm not. And there's a reason why I'm excited to talk about it. So Cleveland Browns shocked the Commanders 24-10. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson on the football field only. 9 for 18, 169 yards passing, but 3 touchdowns and 31 rushing yards. Watson showed flashes of his former self today. For the first time, I think we saw a little bit of Deshaun Watson.
Flashes.
Yeah, flashes. Like I said, flashes. The yardage is lacking, but with today's performance, are you a little more optimistic for his 2023 outlook?
A little more optimistic, but it doesn't really change how I was viewing it, because I still didn't believe that he had just completely lost all of that talent for good. I believed it was a player who hadn't played in 2 years, coming in, not looking great on a not good team. And that's the situation he's still in. Like, this is expected, whether it was this week, next week, or week 1 of the preseason next year, that we see him start to shake some of this off. So I don't know. He's still behind all of the established guys. Like, honestly, I'm probably still drafting like a Kirk Cousins over Deshaun Watson next year. Jared Goff or Deshaun Watson next year, Joe?
That's what I was just about to ask you.
I had a feeling, and that's why I said it first.
But see, I think that's the perfect pairing in a draft. You get somebody with such high upside like Deshaun Watson with the safety blanket of Jared Goff. Like, all these people saying don't take 2 quarterbacks. Like, I get why you say that, but take 2 quarterbacks.
If you wait, you can take 2. It's not a bad strategy over there. Nah, it's not shocking to me. It maybe ups him a little bit, but I'm not overdrafting him or going like, oh, Deshaun Watson's back because of this performance.
Yeah. So do you think he's top 12 or no? Maybe
Let's look at some of those names. Let's look at some of those names that we're talking about. Patrick Mahomes definitely ahead of him. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. I'd put Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, all ahead of him. And then you start getting into the iffy names. Kirk Cousins, I'll put ahead of him. Jared Goff, I'll put ahead of him. He might come in. Kyler Murray, I'll put ahead of him. So I think he's right outside of that top 12. He's in like the 13 to 15 range, depending on some of those other names. Do you put Geno Smith ahead of him? Do you put Jared Goff ahead of him?
I all those names you mentioned, I agree with. But Kirk Cousins, I would put Kirk Cousins behind Deshaun Watson and everyone else you mentioned.
That's 100% fair.
I want to make JL happy, so I'll figure out to say that Mr. Yogurt for him. Nick Chubb had his 11th 100-yard total game of the season, 116 yards on 15 total touches. Amari Cooper, once again, Watson's most targeted wide receiver. That's great to see. The talent there for Cooper is incredible, so it's glad to see Watson utilizing him. 3 receptions, 105 yards. Amari Cooper was one of the best draft day values in 2022. with Watson looking like he's, does favor him. Where do you see the current wide receiver 11 going in 2023 drafts?
Lower than he should. Every single year, Amari Cooper, disrespected in fantasy drafts, never valued appropriately. And people aren't going to remember that he was a wide receiver 1 this season, with Jacoby Brissett starting the vast majority of the year. Amari Cooper was fantastic, and he's probably going to do it again next year. He should be drafted as a top 12 guy. I do not think he will be. I think he's going to be drafted as a solid wide receiver 2, and is going to be a value again next year. And I also just want to say how beautiful it is to bring in the new year, fantasy championship week, and 2 of the league-winning wide receivers are Mike Evans and Amari Cooper. Those are my dudes. Those are my guys. Like, it's like Christmas. It's like Christmas today.
It just came a little late for you.
And DJ Moore had a good game today too. Like, it's all my players doing well.
Excellent. On the Commander side of the ball, Carson Wentz returns to familiar Carson Wentz fashion. 16 for 28, 143 yards, and a goal line rushing touchdown, but 3 interceptions. But Simon, we make fun of Carson Wentz for a certain move he likes to do, and I didn't see one shovel pass from him today. So maybe he's watching. Maybe you heard what we had to say about the shovel passes. But it was a rough game for Wentz. If he has another game like this next week against Dallas, do you see the Commanders moving on in 2023?
I think you could have just asked me, do you see the Commanders moving on? Yeah. I think the Commanders move on from Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I agree. Brian Robinson, 24 carries, 87 yards. Both star Commanders wide receivers struggled today, with Terry McLaurin 2 receptions for 25 yards, Josh Johnson 3 for 37. Logan Thomas actually led the team in receptions and yardage with 6 receptions for 56 yards. And this feels like a real Logan Thomas type thing to do, like make us wait the whole season to actually have a good game. So
I was just about to say, like, all year we've been waiting for the Logan Thomas game, and now here it is. Here you go. Week 17. Hope you held on this long.
Yeah, it seems to be what he does when you can never trust him to play. He'll put forth a good game. So, yeah, that's all I got for this team.
DJ in here saying, hey, I hit that Dotson TD bet last week that you said not to do, Joey. Make that money, DJ.
Get that money. Yep. I'm sorry.
Get that money. And DJ said, time to have Gibson gone from Washington. So Antonio Gibson wants to get him out the door. Joey, this running back situation is this the new Patriots running back situation where I just never have any idea what's going to happen? Like, if Gibson's back on this team next year, which one of the running backs are you prioritizing? Antonio Gibson or Brian Robinson?
I think it's like a thunder and lightning type situation. Robinson gets the carries. Gibson's going to get the receptions.
Shake and bake, baby. Mm-hmm. For those two guys. That's it for this game.
Yep.
Then we're going to move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars Houston Texans game. And the Jags showing up in this one. The hottest team in football, the Houston Texans, cooled down a little bit this week as the Jags beat them 31-3. Trevor Lawrence went 17 for 21, 152 yards, no touchdowns and 1 interception. But that's all right because they got it done on the ground. Travis Etienne, 108 yards on 9 carries with 1 touchdown. Travis Etienne's pretty good at football, Joey, wouldn't you say?
Yes, he's somebody that FYF was kind of really behind as like a collective this season, and I feel like we'll be right behind him again next year.
Oh, yeah. How high are you expecting Travis Etienne to get drafted next year?
I need to sort it out. I would probably take Etienne at the end of the first round. I love what we're seeing out of him. This Jacksonville offense looks incredible. It's clicking everywhere. I want a piece of it. Etienne's probably my favorite piece of this offense. Yeah, I think he's a back-end first round, top of the second round pick.
Now, Joey, I'm going to ask a very mean question about the Houston Texans. But is there a single player in their current situation that you give a single shit about for fantasy next season?
Dameon Pierce is the only one.
Yeah, and he's on IR right now, but it's Dameon Pierce, and that's it, right? Brandon Cooks.
I don't think Brandon Cooks is coming back, but
what makes you say that?
Yeah. If they go out and get a quarterback, I don't think it's Davis Mills. I think Nico Collins could put together something next year. I will be drafting Nico Collins, flex at best type position player.
Yeah. I was a little harsh there, but I just wanted to highlight just how abysmal this team is for fantasy. Yeah. And DJ in here, I know Joey and I are excited about this narrative. Says, should the Jags get in the playoffs, how many games do you see them winning?
All of them.
Joey and I both heard the same. We can't remember who it was, but somebody say that this Jags team is feeling like that Bengals team from a couple years ago that made the Super Bowl run. And I see it. I feel it. I feel them getting hot at the right time. Their young quarterback really starting to click as the season ends. They're my dark horse to make a run to the Super Bowl this year, and I'm standing by it. I think they've got what it takes.
I do too. And if the Jags make the playoffs, which please beat the Titans next week. Nobody wants to see the Titans.
Don't make me watch the Titans in the playoffs.
Nobody wants to see that. I'll put money on the Jags to win the Super Bowl. For all the reasons you said. We heard the same report. We need to find out who said it because it was really good. But no, I mean, you look at this offense has looked incredible, and the defense is at the right time. Everyone seems healthy right now. Lawrence has any option. He's got Zay Jones. He's got Christian Kirk. Evan Ingram's showing up this year in a Doug Peterson offense, which is what we would expect. Yeah. Give me the Jags. They've got a tough road there. They probably have to go through Buffalo and through Kansas City. So it's not easy to do. But if they get to the Super Bowl, they can easily beat whoever the NFC puts up there.
Oh my God, that would be such a wild run. I'm cheering for it just for the chaos of it. I would love to see them make it. Now, I did want to ask you, Joey, the receivers, we talked a little bit about Christian Kirk on the Jag side already. Zay Jones has really stepped up this year as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another wrinkle being added to this offense next year. Calvin Ridley quietly joining the Jaguars in the middle of the season this year. So Calvin Ridley will be a Jaguar at the beginning of next season. What does that do to this wide receiver room? Is he immediately the one over Christian Kirk?
No, I think Christian Kirk's pretty much solidified himself as the wide receiver one in this offense. Calvin Ridley is great, but he's going to be coming back off a year suspension. So, I do expect there to be some rust there. I'm just excited for this offense. It's going to be fun in the offseason, just really breaking this down to see how high we get Trevor Lawrence in our quarterback rankings. I'm just wondering how high he can get.
With adding Calvin Ridley, with Evan Ingram staying there, some of these wide receivers staying that he's building rapport with, Travis Etienne breaking onto the scene. You're right, Joey. He's got the weapons. It'll be interesting to see how high he is in next year's drafts. I'm excited.
Would you take Trevor or Kyler Murray?
I think Trevor Lawrence right now.
Yeah.
I think Trevor Lawrence right now. That's
Lawrence
wild.
Or
Fields. Give me that rushing upside. That dude can rush for more yards than anybody in the league in a season. So I got to take that on my fantasy team. The Kyler Murray one's interesting. I am curious for the Cardinals before we jump off today. Joey, they've lost 6 games in a row now. They're not looking so hot. You think this is it for Cliff Kingsbury?
I don't see how he keeps his job. He had one of the best defensive players in NFL history who's going to be leaving after next week's game. What a great career for JJ Watt. See you in camp.
Shout out JJ Watt.
Yeah. One of the best people too. Did I ever tell you the story? I met his mom at Starbucks. No,
you didn't. You didn't tell me you met his mom.
It was Pro Bowl weekend 2019. And my wife and I are standing in the line at Starbucks at MGM Hollywood Studios at Disney. And who was it? Jason Witten was in front of us. And I told my wife, it's Jason Witten. He's the tight end for the Cowboys. He does commentary now. And I said, but I'm not going to go up to him because I don't want to bother him. And JJ Watt's mom, who I didn't know at the time it was her, was behind us. And she goes, I want to thank you. He's trying to have a day with his family. A lot of people are just bum rushing the people. And I'm like, oh, no, it's fine. It's, I want to give him his privacy. And then I just got talking a little bit. And she's like, well, yeah, I'm here. Both my sons are playing in the Pro Bowl. And I was like, do you mind me asking who your sons are? She's like, JJ Watt and TJ Watt. And I was like, oh. Flash forward 2 years later, and I'm watching the Subway commercial, and I'm like, yep, that's her. That was JJ Watt's mom. She was such a sweetheart.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Everybody who tuned in with us today and every other Sunday during this season, I just want to thank you so much for hanging out with us on Sunday nights. It is time for Sunday Night Football, and this is our last fantasy Sunday night recap of the year. But don't worry, we'll be back with more. If you guys want more of us, check us out on our YouTube channel at Front Yard Fantasy. And we're going to be live tomorrow morning and every morning from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern time for the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. And we've got lots of other live shows and stuff over there as well. Good luck to everybody in these last 2 games. Go secure those victories. And until next time, we are out of here. Adios, everyone.
Bye-bye.